Now this hardening of Muslim, Christian attitude against Islam, I said, seems to be a conspiracy, because it's happening everywhere in the West. I've been to America, the same is the story there. The other day, a young Ahmadi college student came from Greece, and I was surprised to find that exactly the media in Greece is following the same policy. So much so that he told me that although he was in the college for a long time, he studied with so many friends and students who knew him so well, and they were so friendly before. Now because of this propaganda of the media, they are looking at him with suspicion and also with some suppressed hatred, which is visible from their eyes and glances. And some of them who were outspoken, they clearly told him, look here, you belong to a filthy religion which is militant, which believes in terrorism, which believes in this and that. What is happening here? What is happening there? And they would not mention any Christian movements which have the same attitude towards their problems, that is, solution of their problems with force. They would not mention any Buddhist movements which have the same attitude, any Hindu movements which have the same attitude. They simply do not see them, as if their eyes have become only one-sided. So I told him, I said, why don't you quote, what are you doing in Bosnia? Is it Muslims who are at fault? What were Christians doing in Ireland, for instance? In what name the fight was? It was in the name of Christianity. Most militants of Ireland were born with the Christian ideology, and they supported and they fought in the name of Christianity. And what happened in Sri Lanka? Mass murders taking place in the name of Buddhism or in the name of Hindu, or what they call it, not Hinduism, but the southern Indian people who are India, they believe in Kali Devi. You know? Yes. What are these people? Tamils. Now Tamil is a language. It's from the south of India, larger area of South India.
Remember the name Al-Khamir al-Humr?
Pardon?
Al-Khamir al-Humr, the red Khamir or something like this, the Tamils.
Tamils.
There is a movement against them and they are fighting against them.
But what I'm saying is, Tamil is basically the name of the language, and the people who speak that language are called Tamils. But in Sri Lanka, their Hindu stamp was different from the other Hindu groups, and not only there but in India as well. The Hindu sect is very distinct from the others, and they believe in Black Devi, the black goddess, and their doctrine is quite distinctly different, so they don't call themselves Hindus. There is a large number in in Mauritius, and I met some of their leaders, and they told me that they're not Hindus, they're Tamils. But what I'm going to say is simply this, that the fight between Tamils and the Buddhists is not taken notice of by the West. And what is happening to Muslims in India is not noticed by them. When a Hindu militant leader, and a very powerful and well-known leader for that matter, declares in Bombay that I am going to chuck away the 100 million Muslims of India who are aliens here, who have no right to live in our country. I am giving notice first to the Bombay Muslims, just vacate our city or be ready for total destruction. Now, when they hear this, they do not hear it, as if nothing is happening. So this I have been telling not only to this young boy who met me and told me this is the problem, the gravity of the problem, but I have been also telling others to follow this way of argument and tell them to come to senses. A movement must be started whereby we bring Christianity and Islam closer and together. for the ultimate benefit of Islam, of the world. If we go on behaving so stupidly, then the world will be in for a very bad time in future, because this is going to create huge problems and bombshells. Now, there was a movement, there was a television program on Spain. I'll speak of that after you have translated, please. It is very important to note that we observe in different countries, Islamic countries, etc., a movement against their own countries, against their own governments. And they themselves preach hatred and violence in the name of Islam. So when we find this, what we are doing practically is strengthening the hands of the enemies against Islam. So they emphasize these things in their propaganda. And in Algeria, for instance, what's happening? And the oppression by the government of the movement in the name of Islam has no logic on either side, because it's a Muslim government against whom they are fighting. They're, working the sentiments of the people against their own Muslim brothers. And what is happening in Egypt? Everywhere the situation is similar. The threat posed by Islam, so-called Islam, is against the Muslims themselves. Nowhere against the non-Muslims. The threat created by them is against Islam, because their propaganda is working very strongly and very powerfully and agitating the minds of the people who had previously no interest in religion either way, either against nor for. So these are the very dangerous things in which Muslims themselves, with their own stupidity and lack of superior wisdom, are strengthening the enemy's hands, and what Islam is reduced to is simply a force which is destructive for itself, which is suicidal, no more. Now, what is happening in Afghanistan? A movement was launched against Russian presence, which was understood by common people as a presence of anti-God forces, anti-God ideology, anti-God attitudes. That is how the common man understood the philosophy of scientific socialism, no more. They didn't understand its economic programs and the logic behind and things. All that was summed up by the common simple man was that it's a godless philosophy, it's against religion. And as such, a movement was launched at a great sacrifice on the part of the common Afghan Muslim freedom fighters, who did it only for the sake of Islam, for defense of Islam, and for the sake of having their country vacated by the atheist presence. Now that has long been vacated now. They have evacuated this country. What is the fighting about now? See? Muslims are fighting Muslims. They are shedding the Muslim blood. There were two divisions first. The third has been added as if it was not enough. And this Taliban. And they're fighting this triangular fight going on. No end to it. It's a war of attrition. But the most unbelievable thing is that each party is fighting in the name of God, in the name of Hadhrat Muhammad Rasulullah, in the name of Islam.